In this video, we'll look at how to create a typical and assign morphism rules to input and output nodes. In the typical section, create a new component and name the typical. Here we are going to create a flash lamp typical. In the first step, we'll see how to assign a root tag to a typical node. Open the template section and drag the input node into workspace. The typical node window appears automatically. I'm going to pick this node as the root tag for my typical. A root tag is the actual tag in the client IO for which the typical has been assigned. I'm going to label this node as alarm and leave the data type as bool. This node will now look for the tags in the tag name field in client IO database that have been assigned with this typical. I will assign the typical name to the tags after constructing the typical. In the next step, we'll see how to assign existing tags in other client IO fields to typical nodes. Drag another node from the template section, label it, and select an existing tag option. In the drop-down box, you will be able to see all the available fields in iDefine client IO database. Now I'm going to pick the field named accept and say OK. You can see that the accept field has been populated with some tag names. But for the typical to pick these tags up, we have to assign the typical to its root tag in the client IO database, which I will be doing after the typical construction. With a similar type of morphism rule, I'm going to add 2 more nodes and assign a client IO field for each node. I'm labeling this node as blink and I'm selecting an existing tag from the client IO as its morphism rule, and I'm picking blink field from the drop-down box. Shown here are the tags that are present in the blink field in the client IO database. Similarly, I'm going to label the next node as lamp test and pick the same morphism rule and select a client IO field named lamp test. This tag will pick up the tag names from the lamp test field after I assign the typical name to the root tag in client IO. In the next step, we'll see how to create a new tag inside the typical node based on the root tag. Drag a node into workspace and select based on root tag and suffix option. Here you can derive a tag based on the root tag. For instance, this is the reset tag, so let's call it _RST. This node automatically picks up the try tag as the prefix, followed by the name that you add. We'll be able to preview the derived tag names after assigning tags to this typical. Now let's add some functional logic to the workspace and connect it to the input tags. The last thing is to add output nodes. These output nodes will follow the same morphism rule based on a root tag and suffix. I'm going to pick out node from the template section and add it to the workspace. I label it and pick based on root tag and suffix as morphism rule and give a suffix _SND. Similarly, I add another output node with the same rules and I give a suffix _LMP. The next step is to add tags to this typical. You can see that the preview section for these tags are empty. It is because I haven't added tags to this typical yet. Now open the client IO database and fill in the typical name in the typicals field against the corresponding tags in the tag name field. iDefine will automatically pick up the rest of the fields. Now we can preview the tag names in each node inside the typical. At the top you can see the root tag of the typical, and at the bottom you can see the tag name defined for the node instance based on the morphism rule. You can also preview all the resolved typical tags in the Client I/O preview window. The resolved tags along with the tag name pattern for each selected instance is shown in the preview window. To expose tags from this typical to other modules of iDefine, select the node and go to Expose to Modules section. Initially it is set to none by default. Select the read option and give a parameter name. This parameter name will be used as a reference to call these tags in other modules of iDefine such as group typicals, state modules, cause and effects, etc. Now you will be able to use the three tags defined in this node: ALM1_LMP, ALM2_LMP, ALM3_LMP.